Yo, BJ Gaddour with the BJ Gaddour podcast. On today's episode, I'm going to be talking about rebuilding the squat from the ground up. Technically, it's mastering the squat, but a rebuild is something that I think is very important for people that have been training a long time, accumulate some wear and tear, managing injuries, getting older, and it's a big part of the journey in our current VIP program here at YouTube, El Fuego. Every Friday, we have a progressive lower body workout or leg day, building and rebuilding the squat with the box squat progression. So really excited about it. I want to talk all about it, take the principles, the methods. Even if you're not doing the program, you'll take a ton away from this episode. But you want to click join below this video. Become a VIP member today. $20 a month, cancel anytime. You can join the El Fuego 6-week full body fat burning Inferno program, ad-free, plus access all of my programs ad-free here and get great value. We're having an awesome time here. Just crossed the 150 member mark. So thank you so much to those that have supported us out of the gate, helping us build this new workout app here on YouTube. It means a lot to us. Again, we'd love to have all of you come through and give us a shot. Again, $20 a month, cancel anytime. Click the join button. You will not regret it. So before I get into kind of basically these 10 rebuilding your squat tips, quick review on El Fuego week 1. Great job. We had so much enthusiasm, a lot of excitement, and you guys did a great job with your post-workout reports. I can tell when you guys are really engaging with the routines and doing them, and it's exciting also to see you guys interact and help build the community and the culture here. Really great start to the week here, or the program. Week 1, again, we lay the base, we kind of light the flame, we start to slow cook, and we set the foundation for the micro progression from week to week. And I really, I guess one of the couple highlights, double X1, man, what a beautiful routine, kind of reloaded version of X1, 5 different 10-minute workouts into one full, technically kind of, I guess, 1 hour routine. You can do as many of them as you want, but really, as I come back to those basics, I get reminded of, again, like how much more hip mobility I had the last time I really focused on that routine, just more hip flexion, more hip extension. Still need to work my balance, especially on those, the stationary marches or the lateral 3-set to balance and just sticking that. It becomes extra challenging because I actually do these routines on a gymnastics mat for the lower impact aspect of it, less wear and tear from my knee arthritis and stuff like that. But it also increases the balance demands, which is good. Kind of slows me down and really emphasize that single leg balance and stability. But what was so great about it too, it's a 5x5 blast. You're doing every movement for 5 sets, 50 total sets. It felt like the next couple of days, like I had Mike Tyson do some body work on me. Like he was punching me in terms of the, because it's basic core movements, the planks, the bridges, the side planks, the hollow bodies, but that number of sets and volume, it's like a bodybuilding protocol, like a high volume bodybuilding protocol with your body weight. And then again, blending the cardio movements with the core makes the core so much harder, but also the ramp up of the hubs, going from more of the mobility emphasis to, more cardio agility and just faster pace over the course of the workout. That's a routine you could do once a week for the rest of your life and still see benefits from. So just wanted to cap on that. Doing that also, like the areas that I noticed in terms of the most soreness besides the core, good calf soreness. I do it barefoot to really get the balls of the feet midfoot strike and strengthen my feet again on that padded surface. So my calves were cooked. Anything you find to be super cooked, you got to do foam rolling post-workout off day to accelerate the recovery process. So just wanted to touch on that. Awesome routine. El Fuego 1.0. We had you guys do a 10-minute seated. You can do it at your desk also. I want to give you guys stuff you can do at your desk and just drip through your workday too. But seated mobility flow to kind of warm you up. Then a 30-minute, 2 minutes on, 30-second off. Supersetting the main workout, the box squat burner 1.0, pairing a bridge variation with a box squat variation, kind of more glute ham to more quad, even though box squat does hit the glute ham a lot, but just a great progression there. Classic extended time and retention sets, a lot of good slow tempo work, isometric, eccentric emphasis. So it will really lay the foundation. Again, a lot of those drills We'll talk more about it when we get into the main part of the episode here, the squat rebuild. You can start to work those EHO style every hour in the hour daily mobility drip, peppering in, or you can do it on off days. Any drill you find to be like, for example, a lot of you mentioned like the big toe, wrapping the mini band around your big toe and spreading. Pretend this is my big toe. You like, wow, that really helped me engage my feet more. My big toe in particular, kind of punching it into the ground, spreading the toes more. I felt more strength from my entire lower body. Add that into off days. That's also kind of your mobility practice, or you feel like you need more work on, or if you found it to be really good for you, do it on the off days. Add that in. It'll really make a big difference. And all those drills, by the way, by the time you get to 6.0, as challenging as they may have been for you in week 1, they will become more of your warm-up off-day practice, even though, again, like the basics, you're never beyond the basics. And then we had a nice, good 10-minute foam roll for the main areas of the lower body. We'll touch on that too. If anything that was painful, tender, tight, again, like that will, the glutes and the hamstrings are tight on you, the hip flexors, a little bit of pain. That's going to contribute to lower back pain or discomfort. The quads and the calves are tender and tight. That's going to contribute to knee pain or limited range of motion through the ankle. So make sure you are doing those off days if you can't do a post-workout. And again, if you're short on time, you just want to do the main workout. Again, remember, all of my workouts have built-in warm-ups. I do stack extended warm-ups and cooldowns on top of that for our older clientele, people like me that have wear and tear from being an athlete and doing this a long time. We need a good 10 plus minutes to ease into a workout. And then we also need that extra recovery to kind of jumpstart that switch. So, and then you guys enjoy doing the second exposure to the first old school delts routine, dumbbell dynamite. A lot of you said I'm using heavier weights, not as taxed this time, feeling the gains from superhero shoulders. And again, a big part of what I wanted to do with this program is identify what you guys love the most, a lot of the past, the greatest hits, mix some of that in, add in the new stuff, use it all together into a great plan you can't find anywhere else. Quickly, week 2 El Fuego preview. So today, I saw a lot of the post-workout reports. I'll get to those within 24 hours, checking in with our VIPs here. But you are progressing on the 60-30 core cardio supersets and the 45-15 peripheral heart action circuits. A lot of you felt the extra heat, right? Week 2, we put an extra log on the fire. We fan the flame, and good progressions on that. A nice, good challenge. Just classic Metcon fat loss style training. And again, you can do a 20-minute sequence or the full 40. It's totally up to you based on schedule and what you have. But just get in at least that 20, all right? We're progressing also on our metabolic mobility, our off-day sweat and stretch, if you will, practice, going to the 2.0 there, some different stuff layered in there. And again, a lot of you are saying, man, it felt great. It's the off days should be delightful. They should be rejuvenating. I'm gonna melt your face on the 4 main training days: Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. But take Sunday off, rest, walk, just do light stretching, stuff like that, mobility work. But you wanna. Jordan Robertson says, if that joint acts like a hoe, look above and below. That's one of my classic licks. I forgot the exact melody of that. If it comes to me, I'll sing it later, but it's still earlier in the Monday here. Waking up. Hope you're doing well, JR. And let's pray on LeBron. Let's pray for LeBron James's groin. Okay. Woo! So we're progressing on that double X2. All right. Again, it's all live for you. So what I did with double X2, the way I teach, the Turkish get up, it's a core exercise for us, full body core exercise, because of the fact it does everything for you, head to toe, ground to stand. I almost want to call it the ground to stand because I think when people think Turkish get up sounds like exotic, whatever else, you call it what you want, but it is the ground to stand. Like fundamentally, it is the most complete exercise to train mobility, stability, balance, head to toe. And we break it down in its 5 unique stages and build each stage 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 = 5. Actually equals 10 when you do it the way I do it, exponential. But that was kind of the original double X2. With X2, with double X2, I'm taking the bodyweight movements from double X1 or X1, and I'm fusing them in to the program here. So it's basically a 20 exercise monster circuit. You'll do 2 dumbbell drills followed by 2 bodyweight drills and just kind of go in that sequence all the way through as you go between the left and right side, strengthening and balances between sides on our get up stages, and then fusing in the core cardio mobility bodyweight exercises from double X1. And so you can do it one time for 20 minutes, 2 times for 40, or 3 times for 60. And again, all of these routines, I'll eventually put them into a double X reloaded playlist. And some of you are not even doing El Fuego, but you're jumping into what's being added for the VIPs. That's fine too. Again, like I love that you're doing the programs. I recommend it, but as long as you're engaging in the routines and taking advantage of what it is to be a VIP, that's all that I care about. And working them into your schedule as you deem fit. But it's just a great dumbbell bodyweight fusion workout. I'm looking forward to doing it. I'm on a different schedule with you guys because of the filming, but I'm going to be doing that tomorrow. Just have fun with it. And the beauty of it too is you can even load up because you're breaking up the dumbbell and bodyweight stuff. Maybe play with adding some load if you're a Turkish get up veteran, going heavier than normal because you're getting a break in between those dumbbell movements, but your core won't be. So, maybe the first time through, use your typical weight. If you want to do a second round and try to bump the weight up, give it a shot. But a classic dumbbell workout. And I think you guys will, again, what I like about it too is you're familiar with the movements, but we're changing the exercise order and the sequencing in a way that will feel completely new to you. So you can get into the workout quick and but feel something totally unique from our staple exercises. So really excited about that. El Fuego 2.0. I want to touch on that briefly. That's your Friday workout this week. We start with a 10-minute stick mobility flow with the box. Again, anything you have, mop, broom, PVC pipe. I'm not trying to sell a high-end stick today. They sent it to me. I like it. Whatever, stick mobility. But a great mix of hip and spinal mobility exercises, essentially 10 minutes straight body weight box squatting, but every 2 minutes we switch the emphasis, whether it be side bending, twisting, hip hinging from a seated or stand. You can also add a mini band in there to help our hip activation. That's a big part of what we talk about in the main episode here coming up here, the main topics of rebuilding the squat. And kind of we go now 3 minutes on, 1 minute off. So I do love boxing intervals in general for cardio, but I also like it for leg exercises because, especially with body weight, because it really does make lightweight feel heavy with those extended sets. And I do a lot of playing with those 3 minute sets in the sense that the first 5 rounds, again, more mobility focused, slower tempo. The second 5 rounds, 40 minutes total there, we do ramp the speed and the tempo up. We start to work in some lower impact plyometric progressions, whether it be the drop or the jump box squat. And then we even, play with some like 30-30 intervals in that 3 minute block, some ramp ups, minute to minute, speeding things up. So it was really just like, it's a beautiful workout. I don't know what to tell you. Like it's the amount of just direct lower body, leg, hip work, cardio metabolic towards the end, some real good huffing and puffing fat loss effect. And then you just kind of, you'll feel it the whole weekend. What a good leg day does, and again, the beauty of this too is you'll feel it without having to put heavy weights on your back, which is great because the recovery is a lot easier, but the muscles themselves, you just feel the elevation and fat burning muscle building hormones all weekend. It's beautiful. So and then we do a nice good, if you have a massage gun, I show you how to use the massage gun for all the key areas of the lower body as well in the cool down. If you don't have the massage gun, just do the foam roll routine I showed you in the previous week. But I think you'll like some of the unique, showing you how to access those areas in a way that really benefits, those things you can do with the massage gun, you just can't quite do with the foam roller. They all have their place. And again, it's also something that's easy to travel with. You can do it at your desk quick without having to get on the ground with a roller for EHO style stuff. So I know you're going to love it. And the way we're going to build on these routines from week to week, we're building up that volume and that stamina. And as we do that, we'll start to intensify and even shorten the work periods, but then add more speed, power, intensity to it as well. It's going to be just a great, like this 6-week program for just that El Fuego, as I call it, or the box squat burner series. That's something you can have in your rotation indefinitely. It's just, I'm really excited about it. So before I get into the squat rebuild, again, click join, become a VIP today, $20 a month, cancel anytime, access this and all my other stuff here. And I'm also just, month 6 of the Gorilla Corn Gains is going to be uploaded by end of the day as well. It's uploaded. I just got to publish it for our VIPs. So let's get into that. So real quick, before I get into this, we had a comment from a VIP member I wanted to share. Lindsay Burkholder. Congrats on the 150 members, big guy. I fucking love to see you succeed. And one of the recent podcasts, you mentioned a mission statement, so I'm going to drop mine here. And just a quick alluding to that, I talked about the importance of just knowing why you're doing this. And why I'm doing this for you is, it is how I make a living. But I do want to be a highlight of your day. You know, as I alluded to, like how me watching the Lakers game at the end of a long work day is kind of my escape and something I look forward to all day, getting through the work and the stress and unwinding and escaping from it. Beyond, empowering you and elevating you through these workouts, which I know they can do. Quality exercise energizes you in a way that no stimulant, no pill, nothing else can, especially as consistently without the side effects that come with those things that are, quick fixes, right? But I also wanted you guys to figure out, beyond, you want to lose weight, you want to look all this stuff, but like, what specifically are you going to tell yourself when you don't want to do this for whatever reason? Because it's going to happen. Having a strong purpose beyond just the superficial stuff really matters. So for Lynn's, I'm currently knocking on my 40s door. My entire life, I've always been athletic, but I have always been overweight. I've always had coordination. I've always been able to throw around heavy shit. Every single person in my family is overweight and has been for as long as I can remember. My issue has always been my mind. I will throw in the towel if something gets too hard. I will eat the cookie, even after telling myself no 10 times. No more. I'm focusing on my diet while also putting in the work. I will be the one that tells me when I'm done, not my mind. I will be the one to walk away from the cookie. My mind will no longer convince me I deserve it. I will be the break in this chain. So, Linz, I love that. Thanks for sharing. And again, any of our VIPs that want to share their purpose, drop it in the comments. I'd love to highlight it either on this episode or the next one as well. Because again, I think a lot of us, this is a societal thing. A lot of us have lost sight of our purpose or don't know what our purpose is anymore post-pandemic with all the things going on in the world, etc. You got to kind of reconnect with it or maybe even like massage it, evolve it. That's critical along the way. What I'll say to Lindsay's point, again, going back to all or nothing, again, like it isn't necessarily about eliminating the cookie. One thing that let's talk about the cost of the cookie. It could be a biscuit, by the way. It could be a chip. We all have our little triggers, right? When it comes to eating and being able to, in the moment when you are stressed and you're just like, I just want to fucking have a slice of pizza or a cookie or a chip. You know how rewarding it can be in the moment, but then you just think the cost of the cookie. And by the way, there's not always a cost to it. Having a cookie or a couple of at the end of a long week of being really diligent with your diet, kicking ass at your job, getting all your workouts in. To me, that's a whole part of this process. This can be taken away from you any moment, not just life, the ability to move, right? The ability to you could lose your job. All I'm saying is like, you do want to live in the present and enjoy yourself, and you don't want to cut away all the things you enjoy. Now, ideally, the only source of joy you don't want to find the only source of joy with food, right? I've been there. My whole family is overweight. Grew up fat. Many of you don't know that story. You'd be shocked at what I looked like when I was a 17, 18, 19-year-old. You'd be shocked. You wouldn't even believe it. And how I can look this way at 42 naturally. It's a process. And again, I still enjoy myself on the weekends, but I truly, as I've gotten older, the cost is with me at all times. Like I know if I overdo the eating, my knee arthritis, my knee will literally blow up the next day. That's going to cost me. I'll feel like shit the whole weekend. I won't be able to stretch. It'll set me back the next training week. You start to identify the cost of these things, and then you just start to make better choices, adult choices, right? Versus the impetuous choices of our youth. And part of what allows us to become adults and get to a mastery state and find more wisdom in things is all the mistakes we make when we're younger. Lindsay says it's a metaphor. It is a metaphoric cookie. It's a metaphoric biscuit. Best believe I had one of the best cookies I ever had on Saturday after some pizza. That's great. Again, like I don't want you guys to lose enjoyment in this. a lot of the people that maybe you see or inspire you online that, I guess look amazing. Many have had surgeries, many take pills, many are absolutely fucking miserable, and truly are slaves to putting on that look or that persona. And honestly, like they may have money and that type of thing. And there's a lot of enjoyment you can gather from making money. We all need to make it, to eat, to live, to pay the bills, right? But that also has a cost. One of my buddies, Jeremy Scott, he has a gym in Scottsdale, Arizona, one of the wealthiest places in probably the world, frankly, but definitely in the States. And he tells me all the time about how these people make like, they vacation for $30,000, $50,000 a month in the summer and in Malibu, and they're making millions and millions of dollars. And they talk about how miserable they are because of what's required. One client, I guess it cost $20,000 a month to air condition his mansion. Okay. So at every level, there are problems and there are costs. And so you've got to determine what level of flexibility can I find with my diet. And also like, same thing with exercise too. Like you start to exercise so much, it steals the joy from exercise. You'll get so much stress. And so it's a metaphorical cookie. It's a metaphorical biscuit. But the more you're familiar with the cost of those choices, slowly, systemically, gradually, you'll start making better choices. Then you'll find yourself in a situation where I was just talking to my wife this weekend. Like, I can't believe how much less I eat on the weekends than even a couple of years ago. And a lot of it is because of the cost of food, inflation, not going to restaurants anymore and stuff like that. But again, like in the moment, you're like, oh, I know how many will do this. Now it's no problem. Weeks and weeks and years, it is worth it. And again, this weekend, I shared a pizza thin crust with my wife, a burrito. I had, my Sieta and Boulder Canyon avocado oil chips. Felt great. Woke up the next day, no inflammation, feeling good. Whereas, again, I have, you do that hard Friday workout and then you lose control on Friday night. You wake up Saturday looking like the Michelin Man. We've all been there. Just start getting familiar with the cost of the choices, especially around the weekends where, our inhibitions get lowered and we get that tipping point of stress where we try to find the dopamine from food or drugs or alcohol and stuff like that. Be moderate with it and always remember the cost of it because you have to wake up the next day and move on with your life. So thank you, Linz, for sharing that. And let's get into rebuilding the squat. There are kind of 10 tips here. And I just want to quickly, again, I always have to kind of do these as if it's the first time someone's listening. I apologize if it's redundant, if I'm repeating some of the stuff too. I'll be as quick as I can on it. But the personal story is I'm making these workouts. So you're understanding why I'm making it in the way I am. And, I've talked many times about like, really like my knees have been my Achilles heel. My entire training career. I had 10 years of patellar tendinopathy, which is a variety, tendinitis that just becomes like so bad because of the scar tissue in terms of how it heals. 4 knee surgeries by the time I was 22, had arthritis in my early 20s. And now at 42, that arthritis I'm dealing with, especially on the left side, just a deformed joint. Like literally it's beyond bone on bone. Like you can actually look at it and see that that's not a normal kneecap. The kneecap just floats. It's not stable. It's made it really difficult to do this job from a lower body standpoint the last couple of years. Last year in particular, I had big plans and I just literally couldn't even do the stuff. Couldn't even do it. So with this, and again, this is initially the struggle. I always look back at this and you forget because, why am I having to deal with this? All of you, whether it's at your job, whatever else, like, why me? The Nancy Kerrigan moment, someone caps you in the knee. You're about to win gold. Like, why me? 4 years of working for this, right? Well, it always seems to be for a reason. When I look back at these situations, the struggles, the weaknesses, all these things, when you can transform weaknesses into strengths, that's a way to not only, empower yourself, but, potentially empower others that may be dealing with something in a similar way. The injuries I dealt with as an athlete, being overweight growing up, that became the foundation for what became a fitness business, where I was able to share this with, over the last 2 decades, millions of people. Not obviously on as big of a platform as I was when I was at Men's Health Now, but I'm actually impacting people in a more deep way, if you will, because of all the programming and the connection we can have here that we couldn't have had there. So even though it's less people, these are deeper connections and impacts, in my opinion. And now, as my audience has aged with me, many of you are over 30, over 40. Many of you have arthritis somewhere. By the way, even without actual even injuries or stuff like that, by the time you get to 40, most of us will be early stage arthritis in at least one or multiple joints, just from the wear and tear of life. And so now I look at it, okay, so I've been put in a situation where I'm battling this so I can help those that don't have the time, energy, resources, knowledge for similar things to deal with it as well. Like, how can I continue to train my legs? Because again, one of the problems that happens here is you stop training the legs, and then the atrophy and the loss of muscle not only contributes to reductions in metabolism, the loss of aesthetics, the loss of function and strength, and it makes the arthritis even worse. And a big part of managing injuries or a condition like arthritis, and also, by the way, bursitis, which means the joint can just inflame on you from bumps or, being a lot of pressure, being on it or supporting your weight on it. We'll talk about that as well. And it just kind of throws you, how do I do it? Like, necessity is the mother of invention. These routines will be, you look at them on paper, you're like, well, this is a weak workout, or I know some of the perceptions people have of the stuff that I do. And it's like, that's fine. Like, I really don't, like, if you think the workouts are soft, okay, well, if you haven't done them, well, you don't really know. And also, like, if I can get the same result that I'm looking for in terms of just general strength, look, all that stuff, and I can do it without further destroying my body or, like, destroying my back to make my legs look amazing. By the way, and I've done all that stuff. I've squatted, a lot of weights, and a lot of the reason I'm dealing with the stuff I have too is, it's from football and powerlifting, frankly. So in my journey to kind of find a way to just the rebuild itself, and again, part of the issue too is the issues I was having. I have trouble in a split stance position or a lunge shape, particularly when my left knee is in the back leg. Like, I can literally hear the bone on bone touching. I just can't trust the kneecap, especially earlier in a workout, or if I don't have time to warm up, or it's just a bad day where there's swelling. But the box squat, no matter how bad it has gotten, even if there's a little bit of swelling in the joint, I can still train my legs from the box squat position or the seated position. I'm actually in my box squat height, seated on my big Atlas ball as we do this. So it's a mission for me beyond the fact that, like, I need to be able to do this at least till I'm 50 or longer. I want to be able to still be active for as long as I'm here. I don't know how long I'm going to be here, but I do want to have function and all that good stuff. I put in so much work into my legs that I don't want to lose that either. And so we all have limitations. What I want to teach you is the methods and principles by which, no matter how bad the knees might be, or the back, or any lower body issue, we can still find ways to train the legs and the hips smarter, lower impact. And if you still want to continue to pursue heavy weights and stuff like that, we'll eventually use some weight in this program, but it could be used with a dumbbell or a kettlebell. Not much is required by how I structure these workouts. And, I've already been seeing, like, true improvements in the muscle definition, development, symmetry in my lower body. So it's a personal journey. I'm excited to share it with you guys. And it sucks. Like, sometimes you just got like, I used to be able to push all that heavy weight. I used to be able to just, like, squat up and down, not thinking about it. But like, what are you going to do? Like, we're all going to have one of these areas of our body. I will say, the knees are tough. They really do change the way, you do things. And then a lot of the stuff you really enjoyed when you were young, like court field sports, or even running, like, you got to, like, sometimes it might be beyond us at this point. And that's tough too. The one thing I'll say as well, things can get taken, like, when you hit this wall, athletically or physically, oftentimes it can be taken away from you so quickly. It's like a shock to the system. It's like a death, a loss. And what kind of sucks about this in some ways is that I overcame it. And then, just the nature of a deformed, damaged joint, there's a limit to how much you can do before eventually it ends up winning, before you have to completely shift and evolve the strategy with which you approach it. And so that's where and you, by the way, you find this, like, I'm rebuilding my business from the ground up on a new platform on YouTube. And there's pros and cons to it. There's a lot of challenges to it. But throughout life, in and out of the gym, you have to go through rebuilds. Maybe you have to rebuild your home. It's gotten to the point where the roof is fucked, or maybe you want to sell it. You got to do a couple renovations so you can get the price up. Rebuilds are a part of life. They do seem to get a little bit more challenging as we get older, because we hope that we don't have to do them anymore, because it is also harder, less energy, less motivation in some cases. But rebuilding things as you have more wisdom can also be great, because you just know more. You have more experience and you know the pitfalls to avoid. And one thing it was interesting too. It was either like I heard someone on a podcast recently talk about it. It was either Bill Gates or Steve Jobs, and he said they'd like to give a new task or an important task that's figuring something out or troubleshooting something to their laziest workers, because the laziest workers tend to find the easiest way to do it, which ends up being the most simple and scalable way. I thought it was kind of an interesting way to look at it. I think a lot of times we can overlook the simple, easy, basic options available to us because they're not exotic or exciting or sexy. But as someone who has taken the opposite approach, finding the most complicated way to do things, which makes it difficult to explain and share now at this age, I mean, easy might be the wrong word, but I think it is. I mean, maybe it isn't. Why does it have to be so hard? I mean, it's a simple thing. We're rebuilding your squat by sitting onto a box and everything in between. So I just wanted to share that quick. I know what it's like to battle injuries. I know what it's like to overcome it, and then I have to deal with the issue again. Because again, these injuries, they never really leave us. You know what I'm saying? That's a lot. I know a lot of you it's feeling good now. So I'll stop doing the foam rolling, the massage, and I'll start pushing the volume and the load. Oh no, it happened again. Like, these injuries, they never leave you. It's a scar that's going to stick with you. So, it's a reminder too to don't get too full of yourself. Stay humble. Don't push beyond your limits, because again, these things that we develop over the course of our teens, 20s, 30s, they're with us for life. We have to get really smart at managing that and just always being proactive about staying ahead of that. So the first thing I'll say in rebuilding the squat, and I touched on this to start. By the way, any questions from our VIPs, just drop them in the comments and I'll answer them either live, if it makes sense what we're talking about in the moment, or at the end of the episode. When you are rebuilding a movement pattern, your tissue quality is critical, especially if you're having pain in your joints, and you jump on the roller and you're like, wow, it hurts. Like, if your muscles hurt on a roller, it means that your joints are compromised. There's too much tension in the system. You're going to be having pain in your back, your knees, your hip. If your glutes, your hamstrings, your quads, your adductors, calves are tight, you're going to have restricted joint motion. You're not going to be able to get enough quality bends in the ankles, the knees, and the hips. And when you can't get the bends in the joints we're trying to move, it's the other joints that tend to get, compromised. Like, can't move at the hip well enough. That means that likely your knees and your back are going to be at risk. When you can't get the ankle motion you're looking for, it's very hard to get your knees forward enough. And then you're probably going to be bending forward too much on your squat and not being able to look up and be athletic. So the system, the fascial connective tissue system is so connected. And I had mentioned too, 2024, I just did a terrible job of massage. Just totally failed. My report card of massage in 2024 was an F. I started every morning with at least 20, 30 minutes of foam rolling so far in 2025. First week was brutal. Everything hurt, especially my quads, my outer quad in particular. I forgot that that's going to be with me for life, and it's not only going to get worse. Like, the joints, they don't Like you can heal some things, but like the arthritis is just going to get progressively worse until I get that joint replaced. So the ITB TFL band was really stuck on my outer quad vastus lateralis, and there was just a lot of pain. I could literally feel how it was pulling the kneecap outwards. And I know this. I know this, but I just lost sight of how important it is, especially for me as a 42-year-old now, with the bone spurs, with age-related age, arthritis willing. So now March, I'm not feeling tenderness. I'm like, but I'm still doing it. Like I'm like, no matter what, maybe I can back off to like 3 to 4 times a week. So if I can't hit some mornings, but I'm going to maintain the results because I don't want to go back to what it was like being on that fucking roller and like struggling to do it at low levels. The way I used to make fun of clients on day one of a boot camp when I showed them the white pool noodle foam roller, which is like no tension at all. We all had those kind of beginner moments or those backward moments. So again, just a reminder, anything you're foam rolling on your lower body that like hurts on the roller, it's going to compromise your movement. It's going to compromise your joints. You got to make time for it pre-post workout, especially on off days. And again, other key times like waking up and before bed are great times. You're going to be most stiff and sore in the morning. And also like, so doing it then is great. Even if it's just like, your problematic area. Can't do it all the time, but the problematic area, like you want to do in the morning. And then before bed too, it's great to kind of just 10 minutes, 1 to 2 minutes each area. It'll help you get to sleep better. Take away a lot of that restless leg tension that maybe you have when you're in bed and you just can't fall asleep or stay in a deep sleep. You got to get the massage. And that's why I'm encouraging you. Some of you have said like, thanks for doing it as a follow along. I just won't do it unless it's a follow along. So, I can't always do that type of stuff follow along, but I'll do it when I can. And again, these routines live forever. I put them in our massage flows playlist for VIPs as well. You've got stuff with all over the body now at this point, massage gun, foam roller. At some point I'll show you this, for those that have knee pain, I'll show you, I got the scraper from Amazon, and scraping has been a big part of how I've been addressing the kind of the above the patella and around it to help with the patellar traction. Also just the issues I have, particularly in the outer thigh. So I'll show that at some point, but got to do the massage. You just got to do it. And got those routines locked in for you as part of the box squat burner. Number 2, rebuilding the squat is the Shinbox shape. I've been drilling this now for you guys for a good 5 years. The thing of the Shinbox, it does take a lot of time. When your hips are really tight, especially if you come from that like powerlifting background where you squat wide, toes out, you lose so much internal hip rotation, which is why when you get into a Shinbox, like it's a 90-90 shape. One leg is in front and back. And again, it's all over our channel here at this point. You can't get that back leg without having to like dump off to the side because you have so little hip internal rotation. The Shinbox is the single best way to get the extreme joint angles of hip internal external rotation. And then especially as we do things like a squat pattern from it, we're getting those angles while flexing and extending the hip. And even abducting, we do clamshells from that shape. I by the way, FUEGO 3.0 starts with a 20-minute, like a signature Shinbox flow I've been working on for a couple weeks now that just has been unlocking even more motions with the hip, strengthening the knees, and again, fixing the imbalances between sides. Test yourself this week at some point. Like try to find yourself in front of a mirror or reflection and squat down and try to be as level as you can. And many of you will notice you tilt to one side, or one side of the pelvis is higher than the other. And it may not be a big deal with your body weight, though, especially at high reps and speed. It'll cause back pain. It'll cause wear and tear of the hip socket and arthritis in your hip. And a host of other things. But when you add load to that, and essentially that's what I did. Like I had a pelvic imbalance and I added load to that. And what that ends up doing is cementing the mobility restrictions and the movement dysfunctions in a way that like take oftentimes years to overcome. Like it could take even decades, especially if you were really aggressively pursuing a strength power sport with imperfect form, because as you keep adding the loads, your body keeps compensating, and you find yourself loaded and trained in these highly compensatory patterns that just now you got to now take all the tension out of the muscle because now there's so much tension you can't mobilize it. So again, like this is with a rebuild. A rebuild starts with your body weight, or oftentimes self-assisted. So it's a big blow to the ego, but at some point you do get to the point with a lot of stuff too. It's like, I just can't be in pain. I can't be dealing with swollen joints. I want to sweat and move and feel good every day. If I'm leaving a couple extra pounds of muscle off my frame, okay, so be it. What's interesting, to tell a quick side story. I was walking through the neighborhood yesterday, and this woman was doing some gardening in her front yard. She spotted me from like a block away, and I knew she was going to ask me to do something. So I was like, oh, fuck. Because I was in a rush. I'm trying to, walk into my midday meal. I got a lot of work to do, scheduling all the content for the week. But, I try to be as polite as I can. And she goes to me, "You look really strong. And can you move this rock?" And by the way, this is like a 1,000-pound rock. And I told her, like, as I always downplay things. When people ask me, like, do you work out? I say no. When she said, "You look really strong," I says, I'm definitely I look much stronger than I am, which is probably true. Like, you look at my leg muscles, you probably think I squat. Seriously, like I have leg size, even necessarily as big as it was at some point when I was doing really heavy squatting still, from the techniques I use and the muscle maturity and all that stuff. I haven't used any weight on my squat for a very long time. Like, so from the standpoint of like, yeah, like, if you don't use heavy weight, will you be maximally strong like competitive powerlifters? Absolutely not. You can be strong enough and you can still look like you're super strong. I have all the function I need to function during the day. But this woman thought I looked strong enough to move a 1,000-pound rock. So this shit isn't that bad, really, is it? Jordan said, "I found the massage gun before bed, helps me go to sleep quicker." Lindsay says, "Massage guns change lives." They do. By the way, like, you can go to like one of those thrift stores or Goodwill or consignment shops. And I saw, like, the last time I went there to one of those, there was a massage gun for $10. And there's a lot of knockoffs now for like $25, $50 range. They do really help. I find them to be really helpful around the neck trap, scapula, arm area too. But they do really serve a nice role for the lower body too, which I show you. Like, part of what I finally figured out in terms of like accessing like the hip flexors is actually getting into the Shinbox, and it opens up those smaller muscles in a way you can really kind of get into that kind of pelvic girdle and the iliacus and all that stuff. You'll see it in the follow along with FUEGO 2.0, but the Shinbox shape. Basically, it's the pigeon stretch in the front leg, and it's that kind of like classic like lying quad stretch in the back leg. But to be able to get as upright as possible while being in that shape, you'll have more mobility through the hip than you'll ever need when you squat. And that gives you the gray zone, especially as you go hard and heavy, to be more bulletproofed, beyond the fact that it's a great way to build the glutes and fix those imbalances between sides. So when you squat, that pelvic bowl is level from start to finish, and there's equal weight on each leg. When it's not, you start getting one side of your body wearing down, you think it's fine, just favor the other side. No, you'll end up then, it's a classic thing, like, my left calf has been sore, so I'm going to start jumping more with my right leg. Then you get shin splints or knee tendonitis in the right side because you're, again, like, you can't work around an imbalance. I'm just telling you right now, at some point, all you'll end up doing, by the way, is just making the rehab or the rebuild more daunting, more challenging, more painful. So again, like, I don't want you to make these mistakes. I truly, like, for someone who's an active individual, like, I wouldn't wish arthritis on my worst enemy. It's the worst. And then bursitis, just the swelling of the joint really throws you off. So, and that kind of goes into the next point too, not just Shinbox, but kneeling stretches and positions are critical. It's part of why I'm such a big fan of the get up. And last year, I just did not do as much kneeling stuff. The ability to kneel is foundational to your knee resilience, especially if you get prone to arthritis and bursitis. And again, bursitis, like, there can be situations where, like, it's crazy because part of what happens when you get arthritis, you have knee deformity of the actual joint itself. The small, like softer structures aren't as protected. They're more prone to getting to bumped or inflamed. And these bursa sacs can just blow up on you. Like sometimes I could just be kneeling, picking something up, and if the surface is hard enough, and it might only be like 30 seconds to a minute, the next day that knee can just blow up. And then I can't bend it, and now it's compromised. So when you're doing the Shinbox and kneeling stuff, one of the best investments I ever made was getting, and this is in the range of like $50 to $100, depending on how big of it you get a thick padded gymnastics mat. There's a reason that those guys and gals train on those thick padded mats for their jumps, all their tumbling stuff, all their intense stretches. It's just a great way to prevent wear and tear, but it also allows you to get into these shapes that give you, like, it's a balance, right? Like if your knee never touches the ground, it's going to become soft and weak. Like the knees were designed to be able to support us from a kneeling shape. It's called, by the way, it's called the prayer position, kneeling. Like Muslims do it 5 times a day. It's the prayer position of almost all faiths in the history of the world in some cases. And you get, it's like same thing. Like these people are just, they're ass to grass in the squat all day. They're on their knees all day gardening or working in the fields, and their knees don't swell up. It's because their body builds a resilience to it. Now we can't go from 0 to 100, right? So getting part of what I do is I have my thick padded gymnastics mat right now. That's movable in my living room. So while I'm watching TV, I can get in my Shinbox or kneeling shapes, just be actively resting in those shapes. In the same regard, you can also, like, you have a nice box, your box squat height or ball you're using that's portable. You can bring it indoors and outdoors, just constantly kind of be in it, working some of the mobilities and patterns that I show you guys, whether it be EHO style or just freestyle on feel. But, being able to squat and hinge and walk and kind of treating your knees like they're feet will not only give you more knee resilience, so it's less prone to swelling and pain, and give like the because that's part of what the get up does too. Like the get up has you, whether it be on your forearm, which is essentially like the elbow too, but if you don't put enough pressure distributed, it's a lot of elbow stress. So like it teaches you, and when you're doing the kneeling shapes, you shouldn't have all that pressure on your knee. You should be distributing it across the shins and the foot. So you want to do that unloaded from more seated positions. So as you get to the standing shapes, your body's ready for it. And again, but I cannot recommend enough a padded surface. It could also be grass. Watch out for the fire ants. A quick story. I don't know if I told you guys this. This was like, I swear to God, like I swear to on my life, this happened. Uncle Baby Biscuits likes to tan in the nude. Okay. I feel like it gives a little more vitality to the area. And in November of last year, a fire ant bit me on the dick, and it was a challenging 2 weeks. I mean, this motherfucker, the thing is, these types of fire ants, like I felt it initially make contact and then clamp in. And what resulted was it looked like a swollen, I mean, like it was bad for a couple of weeks. Where was I going with that? Oh yeah. So be mindful of the fire ants, but I do like, but yeah, you do not want to get a fire ant bite on the dick. It is, I mean, it was brutal, but also hilarious. That's how I feel like if you ever watched the movie, The Truman Show, I'm convinced we all are in our own version of The Truman Show. It's all a simulation. Because the storylines that kind of work into our lives, this is a sitcom. Who gets bit in the dick by a fire ant? Well, a guy who tans naked in the desert. So is it a sitcom or is it just idiocy? I don't know. But there's a quick side note. But whether you have, because we had a gentleman who was getting bursitis, the inflammation in the elbow, the knees and the elbows tend to be most prone to bursitis because, again, these are hinge joints where you do find yourself in support positions. But if you avoid them altogether, then you find yourself one time and it'll literally swell up on you because, again, the soft tissues lose their resilience. But padded surfaces, when you train, when you stretch, you see me in these workouts. I'm on them as much as possible. So when I'm doing the jumps, It's not that I can still jump on hard surfaces, but it makes no sense for me to do that, like especially when there's already been wear and tear. And trust me, you're going to get arthritis in your knees at some point, or your feet, or you want to push that, you want to kick that can as far down the road as possible. It's not fun. So we'll be doing a variety of. So we're starting with the Shinbox flow and 3.0. Some kneeling flows are coming too. This help you with your get-ups, but just in general too, like it'll also help with the pelvic imbalances we talked about. Because again, when you're doing these kneeling shapes, we can isolate the movement at the pelvis. In a lot of cases too, something you have trouble with on your feet because maybe your ankles are so tight you can't even get to the range of the motion you need to access the hip. So it's a way to really bias the hip mobility and the hip correction. So kneeling shapes are critical. And again, you'll see we can kneel from a hinge. We can knee walk from a hinge. I've done these carries from the knees. And again, nothing gets the rage of the internet, like showing something like that. It's like, this is so stupid, just stand. It's like, yeah, I do standing carries too. But the kneeling carry, if you've ever done it, you stupid motherfucker. Sorry about that. Come on, Biscuit. Just, I can't even think of something. It literally fixes the pelvis. So again, it's some people just can't see it. I don't worry about that. Again, I'm no longer trying to convince people to do things the way I do them. I could give two shits what they do. All I care about is people that do buy into this stuff. I want you to get the most out of it and just keep doing that. So the next component, bridging. Bridging is the way to completely rebuild all of your lower body mechanics. When you talk about squatting or deadlifting, because you can do it in such a safe, effective way off the ground, or by elevating your feet or elevating your shoulders, all the different angles we take. We're elevating the feet, gets more hamstring stress, elevating the shoulders, or we're going to call it the hip thrust, gets more glute stress. But you really work on establishing the good foot mechanics, trying to get your toes spread and good tripod foot position, creating the arc in your foot. You're basically trying to establish your squat stance there. And again, what's so critical about it is very rarely will you feel like you could have the worst back and knees. Test this, by the way, those that have battled that. Bridging, you can always bridge. You can at least do a bridge iso. Maybe the dynamics bother you one day, but like no matter how bad my knees are, how swollen the knee is, I can always bridge and at least open up my hip flexors, activate my glutes and hamstrings. And oftentimes too, a good sequence of bridging. Maybe I started the day in like squats. I was a little bit stiff and tighter. My knee was a little bit tender. A couple sets of bridges, and that can go away. Just think of the bridge and its variations as more hip, isolating the hip component of the squat. It's just flexion extension, but we don't have to worry about the ankle or the knee as much. But what that does, because the best squatters in the world, they don't lead with the knees. They lead with the hip. Now, you do want a good amount of knee break, and a lot of that is dictated beyond just like, are your quads strong enough? Do you have enough ankle mobility, all that good stuff. But you have to lead through the hip. Again, it's like trying to do pull-ups with your arms. Maybe you can get to like 5 or 80, maybe even 10 reps, but you'll never get to 20 if you do arm pull-ups, because your lats are so much bigger and stronger, and the only way to access the lat is through the shoulder joint. So again, these are just shortcuts. Like just think about it. Like you look at the shoulders, right? Look at the small little elbow. Do you want to be pulling with this, or do you want to be pulling through this? Same thing with the hip versus the knee. Look at how big and thick the hip joint is. You want to be relying on the knee to power you through this? Bad news. So the bridge kind of sets the tone, developing the muscles, activating mind-muscle connection, mobility of the hip. And by the way, we don't just bridge. I'm teaching you guys how to do a variety of things, whether it be the butterfly shape to get the groin stretch and the abductor activation, the clamshell action, internal external rotation through the hips. That allows us to be able to end up doing that stuff from a squat shape, but progressively. So, and the bridging also allows you to hinge. Like if you can't properly bridge, hinging, which is like standing and bending at the hips, or one of the most common injuries for people is just picking something up off the ground. If anything, by the way, like some of these mobility routines, like you're looking for a side hustle, like some of these stripper stretches I showed you, you'll make some money on the weekends and tips if you need to. You never know. Like, things are not looking good financially for society. Okay. So I never knew what I'd be doing today to make some side money. It is what it is. So might as well prepare for it. But the bridging and the hinging is foundational. You want to do it earlier in your sets, earlier in the workout. And I also like to stack it. So like a lot of times bridging right into squatting, flooding the glutes and hamstrings with blood, very supportive for the knee structures. And again, just kind of activates and aligns. And also there's some competitive fatigue and stacking and metabolic bodybuilding that can happen with that as well, which I also love. It's like doing dips and push-ups and flies, like boom, 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 like all just body zone, just boom, 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 more muscle gain focus. So that's been great too. But like glute bridge marches are critical because you can actually fix the imbalance between sides. And you'll notice too, one hip flexor isn't as active or can't move as, that's my right. My right one doesn't get as much motion. I just continue to hammer at it. I've made so much improvement. It's still not there. But part of what can happen too, a lot of those kneeling positions too, can help if there's a pelvic imbalance. The weight of your knees, think of these as my knees. All right. Your body weight in those kneeling shapes can help bring them more level, the weight of it. All right. And then you kind of level the pelvis. Now you do the bridges, perfect form. Now everything's set. You activate the glutes and the hamstrings, you get those opened up. And now squatting, we can bring that with us. So what you find, and it's, by the way, that's part of what I just say too, like Jordan's, I think Jordan's laughing about the fire ant bite of my dick. That was, I mean, it was good material. I had some content I could kind of talk about for a while, but wow. I mean, the way that motherfucker clamped, it was a big one too. Like this is one of those motherfuckers, like you look in the grass, these ants are so fucking strong. They're like carrying, it's like that 1,000-pound rock that woman thought I could move. And I'll give it a shot. And by the way, this is just a safe way to just not get hurt moving things for people. Just because I played football and I've done a lot of picking up of things. The way to know if it's possible, just like I hook my arms on it and I let my body weight, I kind of rock my body weight. So I'm not actually using any muscle. I'm just like, and when you can't feel it budge, it's walk away from it unless she's offering big money. I'm not going to get hurt moving somebody else's rock. That shit was like part of the earth. She's going to have to like melt all the soil and sediment underneath even to get it to move. Beyond the fact it's a 1,000-pound rock. Okay. I digress. But anyway, bridging and hinging, critical. Beyond the fact that if you look at yourself from the side, and this isn't to make you feel self-conscious, and you see like your hamstrings and your glutes are they're missing some shape. That means that bridging, hinging, they've got to be a priority for you. They really do. Like if you become too quad dominant, your lower back health is not going to be great long-term. It's just not. And you're leaving a lot of strength and performance on the table when it comes to your leg days, your overall squat, and just overall athleticism. So bridging and hinging, we do it earlier in the workout. We do it often. And I also love doing it in sequence with the squat because it kind of primes it. Now let's get into the box squat. Why do we box squat? Okay. And again, I always go back to this, like study the people, that are the best at it. Like, okay, look, and there are some catch-22s with it because again, you won't find a power lifter who isn't in terrible joint pain and who doesn't need joint replacements at very young ages and stuff like that. But the reality is too, they're the strongest squatters in the world. Them and Olympic lifters. And the West Side Barbell, they produce the most 1,000-pound squatters in the history of the world. One day a week, they do box squats. And the reason they do that is because it allows them to like set their squat depth, because in order for a squat to pass, it has to hit a certain depth. So you establish that. And that's why it's good to have an adjustable box if you have one. I've got you guys see the adjustable aerobic step with risers. That's cheap, by the way. That's from the company, The Step. And I have at least 12 risers. And the risers, like, let's say it's about an inch. And you can adjust an inch up or down as needed. Again, sometimes you want to go below your normal squat depth. And again, that actually adds some bulletproofing and some more resilience to it, beyond just like top thigh parallel to the floor. But that's where you want to start. It's a typical step up height or top thigh parallel to the floor or hip crease just beneath knee crease. That gives you a standard, just like a push up to the chest to floor. It's a standard we can work on and build upon and regress, progress, and scale. And I'd encourage you also to make that something you can sit on at your work desk. Like, that's portable. I can take it with me. I've got my big Dynamax ball. I've got my small one. Sometimes I sit in the small one because that's like my ass to grass squat shape, but I'm supported and I can move around and roll in it. And again, the more comfortable you can get seated at a depth below your normal box squat position, the more comfortable the box squat will be. So they feed each other. But that can be a box, bench, chair, ottoman, table. Though again, at some point you need to invest into something to sit onto. It's a staple. We sit and we stand all day long. You're going to be doing this forever. You're going to go through a situation where you have back and/or knee pain at some points in your life. And I'm telling you right now, getting good at the box squat it'll be your automatic backup. You'll always be able to train your legs. Like, what I hope you get from these routines, no matter how much pain you get into, how much, like, you get a knee surgery, God forbid, or replacement, you're going to have to rebuild your squat with the box squat. You may have to go from a very high elevation. Part of it, like, I've gone through knee rehabs post-surgery where, like, I start squatting onto something that's like 2 inches from my ass standing. And I just slowly work my way down. Sometimes your knees and back might be so sore, you might have to start doing a set really high and then just slowly work your way down to your normal heights. It's a great investment. You'll use it all the time. It can become your desk chair, your work chair, and it isn't that expensive. And it gets much less expensive than a power rack and a barbell and all this stuff. And the way I show you how to use the box, you'll never need weight, frankly, to get a great workout. But it autocorrects your form and technique, takes pressure off the back and knees. You get so many miles out of it, and it feeds your main squatting pattern, and it's just less stressful. It's just like what's another example? And by the way, that's also why they, like, those same guys, they bench press. They do towel bench or board presses once a week because it's less stressful than going all the way to the chest, especially with really heavy maximal weights. You can box squat every day. You can't do like you shouldn't do loaded squats every day, like with intensity. I know some people have like pushed the squat every day thing. Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, it's going to wear you out. Like, mobility or light body weight stuff or light load stuff that's fine. But like, trying to push your squat weight heavy every day is just fucking insane. It's not going to work long-term. You might get some short-term benefits, but there's no recovery and the joints are just going to be dust. Ashes and dust sooner than later. So it is the foundation of what we do. And it also can really help you build the bottom of the squat. So that's why the Box Squat Burner series is just, I know you're already loving it. You're going to love it even more as we build on it. But if you have weak glutes and hamstrings, if you're prone to back and knee pain, trust me, focus on the box squat for a good 4 to 6 weeks, and you'll be blown away. The base you'll build for your lower body will translate to all other exercise. You'll have less back and knee pain, and you'll really blow up your legs safely. Trust me. Trust me. Next component here. There's 3 main tools I like for this to enhance what we do. One is a mini band. And again, you can go with one of these. I like these a lot, more so around the knee. I like this a lot for the wrist, anchoring, wrapping around the wrist, and also like the big toe stuff we were doing. We're like, think of my thumbs as the big toe. And what's critical with our squat, and again, practice this from a bridge first, because you got to learn how to do it from a bridge. Just isolate the hip, so we're more hip movers. But when especially as you widen the stance, it pulls the big toe away. It also helps become more aware of the big toe, so you're pinning it down. Like, you want to think of your fingers as talons into the ground. The more active and strong, and the wider that base, the more strength and stability all the way up the kinetic chain. Weak feet and stiff ankles will make you a terrible squatter, and it'll make you prone to knee pain. And it's never going to be a natural movement for you guys. And that's why I like to do it barefoot. And that's why I also like to use these types of tools to bring awareness to the feet and the big toe and the toe spacing. I've also shared, like, you can get these toe spacers, aren't very expensive, earlier in the workout, or like maybe an hour before you train. If you have the ability to do so, like, put on some toe spacers, spread those fuckers out. Again, like if you're squatting like this versus this, what would you want to be? Look at that. Look at it. Boom. No. And then beyond that too, when they're close together tight, look at they're just like, the feet are just like, you'll be rolling on one side of it, pronating, supinating, collapsing. So I love doing those early in the workout for like 5 to 10 slow controlled reps. I also like taking this and wrapping around the wrists and doing, a variety of scapular positions while squatting to engage the upper mid back, or the overhead positions. Because again, one of the biggest issues with bodyweight squatting in particular, because there isn't a load, you forget about it and you start to get loose or relax at the shoulders and you round, and that collapsed shoulder position, especially that's prone to being at the desk. When you squat like that, you're going to be bending over, falling forward more, too much weight forward, and you'll be putting extra stress in your lower back. So in our box squat burner series, I show you how to do this around the big toe, around the wrist, and then we do a lot of this stuff above or below the knee. Because one of the things that happens to people that, you get through a series of back or knee pain and you can't squat as much, you completely forget about the fact that this isn't just an up and down movement, at least when it's done properly. It's supposed to be multi-planar. Like if you can't actively spread the hips, one of the best squatters or powerlifters of all time, Ed Cohen, said one of the best cues I ever heard for squatting, which is spread the taint when you squat. You want to feel some air coming up your asshole when you're squatting properly. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're trying to squat with your butthole puckered, it's not going to work. You want to spread those hips. And this is such a good lateral rotational knee driver. And again, we use this on the bridging, the clamshells. We go in and out with the knees, the squats as well. It's just going to help you spread the hips, take pressure off the back and knees, get more glute hamstring activation, ease stiff hips too. And sometimes you have to actually do it, start it just from the seated shape and just kind of work on that internal external rotation around the knee. I like this early and often in the sets. By the way, I was even wearing this too on some of the entry-level plyometric progressions too, because the knees out position becomes even more important when you leave the ground, because collapsing knees under load, especially like high impact forces, that's where you can really start tearing ligaments and really taking down. Jimmy Gole became a benefactor. Appreciate you, man. So critical, not expensive. And by the way, we use these like for all of our stuff, not just leg days, full body workouts, but this is critical. Warm-ups, mobility, off day, earlier in the sets, just to get every time you sit for a long period of time, that hip socket gets locked down and tight, and you've got to activate. If we didn't have these stupid jobs and all these commutes and stuff like that, this probably wouldn't be as big of an issue. But because of that, we're constantly losing rotation. Our glutes are constantly shutting off. Our hips are getting cement shut, and we lose function. So the mini band is critical. Stick, pull, pipe. This is another thing that I find to be critical when rebuilding the squat or in your warm-ups and stuff like that. Just think of it like a barbell, but it's unweighted. And it's just going to help you constantly be mindful of the shelf that you want to have and that good posture, shoulders down and back, ribs down, abs engaged. And that way you want like when you're properly squatting, you want to be as stiff as a board up top, locked in. So the only motion is coming through the lower body. Otherwise there's leaks in the kinetic chain. I like it about a wingspan width, clamping down. And again, we use this also to drive things like twists, side bends, our hinging, the 10-minute box squat stick mobility flow. That's part of the warm-up for El Fuego 2.0 for our VIPs. We use it the whole way through. It's 10 minutes of just straight squatting. You're going to feel like your hips are going to feel like fucking butter by the time you're done. And by the way, even if you just want to do your own squat workouts, this is like the ultimate squat day warm-up to get you out of back and knee pain and improve your overall form and technique. Because again, all the same things would apply with the bar. Now, you're not necessarily twisting and turning with the bar, but a lot of times it happens with people that do heavy squats or barbell squats, because they're developing so much stiffness and tension in the trunk to stabilize the spine, they lose the mobility and they get in pain from that. So you want to be able to be both mobile and stable. It's not that you don't want your spine to bend. You just don't want it to bend under load or in certain high stress circumstances, but you should have the ability to do it. Because that's why, like, how can that guy squat 500 pounds and then blow out his back picking up a pen off the floor? That's how. Because we completely lose the ability to move through the spine, and it gets so stiff and locked down. But we should have the ability to create the stiffness and stability while having the motion as well. Jimmy's going to order the thick gymnastics mat. By the way, I got it from it's a site called WeSellMats.com. Very creative branding there. That's the black gymnastics mat I use. The scraper's cheap. I got it on Amazon, etc. So the stick is critical. I think for warm-ups, you can also use it, by the way, early on in sets. I'm actually sitting on a ball. That's my box squat height. I can self-assist with my upper body and warm up if things are really stiff and tight. So it can be used as a self-assistance tool. It's also as kind of think of it as your barbell. Unweighted barbell that just locks in good form and technique and makes you more mindful of the upper body. It also just enhances the spinal and hip mobility too. And then a slant board. We're going to be using, there'll be a slant board option for like heels elevated. The one thing I'll say, I know there's been the whole like knees over toes movement. Like all things, they can go a little too far and too extreme. If you're prone to knee arthritis, you've got to be very careful with heels elevated stuff, because speaking from experience, it can blow up your knees. They'll be swelled up next day. It's a lot of knee stress. You might even want to start that like self-assisted, unloaded, just like very, very slow, eccentric, isometric tempos. Because the other side of the coin too is people that have knee pain, like me, I've had to become so hip dominant to compensate that my knees are just like nowhere near ready for that amount of stress, like at high volume or with additional load. But they do have a role in helping you with closer stances, stressing the quads more, but also in particular, a lot of the ankle mobility you can do elevating the toes from hinging shapes, even some like self-assisted toes elevated squatting. Because again, you've got to become a good ankle bender to become a really good squatter with an upright trunk shape, to take pressure off the knees. And again, a lot of type of squatting actions or sport, right? Like volleyball, basketball, you can't jump hinged over. It requires you actually to be upright and jump. And that does require a good amount of knee bending, but you want to first create the motion through the hip and then have the knee follow. And the knee will only follow properly if your ankles are mobile enough. So a lot of ankle mobility on slant boards is critical. And by the way, you can, traditional squat workout, during your typical 2 to 3 minute rest between sets, do ankle mobs and calf stretches. Do some of these bridging drills without super fatiguing, 5 or 10 reps, just mind muscle connection activation drills. Add more of these fillers into your workouts to enhance your workout and get more done than just like sit on your ass or watch SportsCenter. Next component, the eccentric emphasis. You'll see earlier in the sets that we do. And by the way, I don't just go like 3 to 5 seconds. Sometimes I'll just take like a minute or more to go to sit into a squat. And by the way, this is something I can do like if you're in a rush, I guess you can't, but like you're about to take a shit, see how slowly you can sit onto the toilet. Again, these are things you laugh at and might be funny, but you start sneaking these types of things. And it's like, before you sit down and watch TV, sit as slowly as, like, I don't want to hear a fucking sound. Some of you sit down, it sounds like a building collapsed. I've been there too, by the way, like, or you're going, this is the old man. This is how an old man sits down. Ah! It just hurts, right? Because you're so stiff and locked down. Every time you sit is an opportunity to train, retrain, rebuild your squat. Ah! So take advantage of it. And the number of grown men that just break toilet seats by collapsing onto their toilet. Be a slow sitter during the day. Sit slow, spread those hips, stay tall. All right. Prayer position, lock it down. And that's, but especially like a 3 to 5 second eccentric, what it does, it takes the stress off the joints and it makes it all muscle work. It also makes lightweight feel heavy. A slow body weight squat will feel like 100 plus pounds is loaded onto your body or more, depending on how, like, the actual protocol. Like, this is just, your muscles don't know the difference. You do, your ego does. People that are watching and see it, they do, but the muscles just know time and tension. This is just a fact. So just the better, and if you want to do barbell squats and heavy squats too, that's fine. But the better body weight squatter you are, the better you'll be with weights. It is the base. It is the width and the foundation with which all squatting can be done. You want to level up, that's fine. The base is weak, you will get fucked at the higher levels. You'll fall out that fucking building and you may die. Not to be too dramatic, but the eccentric component is critical. Eccentric training builds your brakes, and the brakes are what bulletproofs your body. That my biggest weakness as an athlete was were my brakes. I had trouble decelerating, landing, ended up getting jumper's knee, runner's knee, obviously damaged, got no cartilage left in both knees, frankly, bone spurs, all that stuff. It's because of going too heavy, too fast, not locking in the form or mastering the body weight basics, and not properly developing my brakes. The ability to stop, start, change direction, slow the effect of gravity on your body as you sit down. And the stronger the eccentric phase, by the way, the more eccentric training, the more strength and muscle gain, period. The ability, I apply this, by the way, not just to squatting, but like yesterday, Sunday, I was like, you know what? It was beautiful out. It's like 80 degrees, sunny in March out here in the desert. And I just did a nice little flow where it was a tri-set of 5 pull-ups, 5 dips, and 5 ab wheel rollouts. And I did them as slow as possible. I did 5 reps as slowly as possible. So by that 5th and final rep, like I'm barely able to execute it, even though I could go 10 plus on all those movements, no problem. And just kind of float on that. And the rest period was just a hip stretch or an ankle stretch. Just float on that. It was just a beautiful flow outside. But I applied that not just to my leg training, but like it's especially critical for your leg stuff, because whether you're running, you're jumping, you still play recreational sports, the ability to stop safely, effectively, without pain, with good bends in ankles, knees, and hips, without a compromised spinal position. That's what's going to allow you to do this long term. Jordan says, I swear I just like the fitness industry so much now, with the exception of the biscuits. Appreciate it. Thank you, Jordan. Taste the biscuits. Taste the honey sauce. What was I talking about? Oh, yeah. So your brakes. So part of what we did, and I won't skip ahead, but can you, for 5 or 10 reps, take at least 5 seconds to slowly lower, and you can use a mirror if you need to, without letting your pelvis dip, tilt, turn, one leg dominates, and without collapsing or making a sound when your butt touches the box, chair, whatever you're on. If you can't do that, you have no business touching weight. No business. And even when we use weights, I'm still going to be mindful of that slow eccentric, because once I can do it slow, doing it fast will be super easy, because doing it fast, now I'm just using the slingshot nature, right, of my connective tissues, which makes me stronger, more powerful. But what just happened there? That's a lot of stress. If those joints aren't ready for it, if those muscles aren't properly developed, if your movement mechanics, your motor control is off. So that's why it starts with the slow foundation. And then adding speed is just super easy. And then now the joints are ready for it. This is part of the reason when people that take steroids, the muscles develop so much faster than the connective tissues. You end up getting these, and that's part of what can happen too, even without steroids, by the way. And this is the dangers of teenagers who basically are on natural steroids. The boys in particular, right? The testosterone's off the charts. I gained 100 pounds in 18 months at one point. I went from 160 to 260 from my sophomore to junior year. And it was a lot of body fat too, but I was doing a lot of powerlifting. My muscles grew way too faster for the connective tissues to keep up with. And then getting tendonitis and ended up tearing my meniscus. All terrible things happen, right? In your adult stage, when you take drugs and stuff, and the same thing can start to happen. Even in natural states, again, it takes the connective tissues a much longer time to adapt to training. That's why you have to just like if you're being conservative coming from an injury, let's say you'll be ready in 2 weeks. No, that means we're back in a month, because it's 2 weeks to recover and then 2 weeks to rebuild and ramp up. Versus because you're risking it after the 2 week mark to getting back in to get another strain, right? Or the joint to flare up again. So you always want to give that extra amount of time. with the eccentric component comes also like you want to get really, and by the way, I'm a former lineman. We used to do like the fucking defensive line coach would just like punish us and torture us by like, get in your stance for 10 minutes. You tell these stupid stories and jokes. You can't, again, I it's hard for people to just understand this, but like you can build muscle so many fucking ways. And the study shows that isometrics don't build as much muscle as full range of motion exercise. Okay, but tell me, can you hold a squat position for 5 or 10 minutes? Whether it be like a bear crawl, a lineman stance, or like by the way, this is part of, I'll show this now because I can stand and show it. I'm calling this kind of the squat plank or the old man squat. Just start kind of sitting and you can just watching TV or just like you're messing around a little bit and kind of plank up. So I've got this forearm support and it's basically like a lineman's about to get into their stance right before and just get comfortable there. How long can you do this? And still use like forearm elbow support while you're there. I bet most people that are untrained probably can't go a minute. If you can go 5 or 10 minutes in this without back or knee pain, your legs and hips are going to be incredibly developed. And you don't like, especially if you're like a larger individual, like your body is your barbell. I wrote a book about that. So part of what the box squat can do, we do these things called hover holds where like you're seated, relaxed, not necessarily relaxed, but like unengaged. And then you have to just basically just lift up an inch and hold and basically build the bottom of your squat. Once you build the bottom of your squat and you've got good spread hips, strong, active, wide spread toes and feet, good upright trunk positioning, engaged scapula, good posture, you'll own everything in between. It's a position where people get hurt. It like coming up and down. It's also the break point in most like break point tends to be a little bit above your lowered shape or your bottom or your thigh parallel to the floor. But when you train good isometric positions as well, not only do you build that exact joint angle, but you build 15 degrees above and below. And we don't just work also, I love the eccentric isometric tempos, which is like 3 to 5 seconds down, then a 1 to 2 second hold before you sit. We also do part of the workout, I think in 1.0 box squat burner was with the mini band, 3 stops. So you lower to quarter squat, push out against that band and hold for at least a couple seconds. Then you go halfway, hold for a couple seconds. Then you go just above where you would sit, hold for a couple seconds, come down. That's 1 repetition. That will feel to your muscles like a heavy loaded squat. And unlike the way most people squat in the gym, you'll see they're just blowing through, getting them done as fast as possible. Oftentimes they're like that. You can see like the legs and hips don't look as big as they should be for someone who's using that weight. That's also one of those big indicators. Like, again, sometimes people are stronger than they look. That absolutely happens. But great squatters, they have hamstrings that just fall to the floor. They have a big ass, and they have developed quadriceps and oftentimes too big, strong calves because they get good ankle motion as well. And that's one of my weaknesses because of my knee history and my ankle stiffness. My calves have always beyond, also genetics, but my calves have always laid beyond my thighs. So again, like you can't cash checks. What's the fucking expression? Don't cash checks. I don't know. I'm too old for this shit. But tempo is critical, man. Tempo is how it's the most overlooked aspect or variable of the program design. People always look at load or changing the exercise, but they don't look at playing with the eccentric component or the stretch component as much. Beyond it, they do. It's just that, but there's so many ways you can apply eccentric stress. They avoid isometrics because they think it's just for yoga or stretching. It also, frankly, it just humbles them. It's too humbling for people that how can I be so challenged with my body weight? That's humbling to people, I guess. To me, that's the genius of it. That I don't need anything additional upon me to get the training effect. I can do this anywhere. Like I can do this on an island alone and always look and feel and move the way I want to move. But I guess some people like, they don't like being naked. They just like to have constantly other stuff needed. But the next point too is low impact plyometric progressions. The best way to learn how to jump is the box squat jump, period, because it unloads your joints. You can pause in between repetitions. And one of the biggest mistakes we make with plyometrics is we ask people to go from, we essentially ask people to go from like squatting to jumping. But there's no, like, jump as high as you can versus, like, let's set the clock for 2 or 3 minutes and do very slow, light jumps and focus on landing. Like, I don't want to hear a fucking noise when you land. It's very good on gymnastics, man, in particular. Soft landings and then slow sits. Build your breaks. Like, if you're going to, you don't just go from walking to sprinting. You go from walking to jogging to running to eventually sprinting, or maybe sprinting uphill so it's less stressful initially, or acceleration runs building up to like 75% speed. So why don't we approach that with the way that we go and program squats and jumps? Again, the box squat jump, I can constantly reset my positioning. When you just do like 10 consecutive jumps, if the first rep is bad, by the time you get to rep number 10, it's going to be very ugly and it's going to be problematic. And part of how you manage arthritis and age and stuff like that and maintaining fast twitch fibers is you find that minimum effective dose. And by the way, in my opinion, as little as 10 to 20 repetitions of something plyometric can get you at least 80% of what you need from a fast twitch standpoint. You don't need hundreds upon hundreds of repetitions or an hour of it's just going to wear you down. There's no point, but we do need to get stimulate those fast twitch fibers. You can do so with your body weight. That's part of how we can make, and also like that's how you can start to make your box squat have like added weight, is by adding some plyometric type progressions to it. But we actually I have you start by doing the drop box squat, where we just isolate the eccentric phase with a mini band to encourage you to receive the load through your hips, to take pressure off the knees, to really be active in the feet. But part of what happens when you're doing box squat jumps and you can pause between repetitions is I had the ability to kind of reset. Oh, my right foot slid forward more on me. Now my stance, I can actually reset my stance, check my positioning, constantly kind of fine tune your form and technique, and take it one rep at a time. What I love about it is you kind of go one. They're just singles. You're just stringing together singles. Some of my favorite workouts, one of my favorite like finishers, 5 to 10 straight minutes. Do 2 normal box squats, then 1 box squat jump. Repeat for time. I mean, incredible fat loss, metabolic conditioning, aerobic, anaerobic, fast twitch, slow twitch. All you need is your body weight. Incredible starter and finisher. And then even adding some speed to just normal speed reps. Contrary to popular belief, you don't need to jump to train explosive power. But we do want to also bring in the ankle joint too, and that type of thing. But we have a lot of good low impact plyometric progressions, but start working on jumping from a box and landing softly and taking 35 seconds to sit back down. 5 to 10 reps, 1 rep at a time, to rebuild your jumping and your landing mechanics. And then we can start to apply some crazy metabolic fat loss protocols on top of that, because it is part of El Fuego. And I also have a plyometric progression that I show you. Final thing, we bring load into it, but oftentimes we bring load as a form of counterbalance. For smaller people, it's like 25 to 50 pounds. Like that can be like 2 25-pound dumbbells or 150. For really big people, that can be like 50 to 100 pounds total. Front load, whether it be like goblet style or rack loaded with dumbbells or kettlebell. By the way, like I'm of the opinion that that's the only load you need to max out your leg gains for the average person, independent of strength. From a muscle gain standpoint and also just a relative strength standpoint, your body weight plus a load that can come up to maybe at most like half of your overall body weight is all you need to have the most amazing legs in your town. Is that not good enough for you? Now, if you're worried about comparing yourself to the juiced out, roided out bodybuilders or influencers online, well, then that's always a losing battle. But you can be the most jacked dude in your neighborhood or jacked gal in your neighborhood, or most developed legs, wheels of steel in your neighborhood with just your body weight, a mini band, a stick, a box, and then maybe adding a load that's up to about 25 to 50% of your overall body weight. 200-pound guy, all you would really need is 50 to 100 pounds of additional load, because what that does is create the contrast to enhance your body weight skills, but also build a little bit of strength from a functional standpoint. Because again, over the course, functional means like what do I need to lift throughout the course of a day? In most cases, it's not more than 100 pounds for the average person. And then we just know from muscle building standpoint, you can build the same amount of muscle with lighter weight, higher rep, extended time under tensions as with heavy weights. You may not be able to get as strong, but we can also, by the way, move to things like pistol box squats or single leg training, where now all my body weight is on one side at a time. That's part of where this goes. By the way, as a VIP member, my Quadzilla program, literally it's a 10-step progressive workout sequence. Follow along. It takes you from ground zero to superhero to be able to do a pistol squat. And that's part of, and it's actually, it's even better than my book, Your Body's Your Barbell. I got published 10 years ago, because it's video-based, follow-along based, and I made a lot of improvements to it from experience. But it can also go to that. That's the ultimate test of single leg strength. I would much rather do a pain-free pistol ass to grass with my body weight than squat 500 pounds. Because that's my perspective in terms of what I actually know as a fitness pro or pro athlete, in terms of how I approach my body. That's important. I think it's much more impressive. I think it's a true indicator of longevity. And that's my opinion. You might disagree, but a lot of people on squat heavy, they can't do single leg squats. They can't even do split squats. Jim Goulet said, I will always choose a lazy person to do a difficult job, because a lazy person will find an easy way to do it. That's the quote. That's honestly a good one, especially like, it's even more important to me now, because I am legit like a one-man show. It's just me doing all this. So I've been forced to be, really what it means is you optimize the efficiency of it and the simplicity of the message and the content. Not that I don't put a lot of effort into it. So no, I do, but if it's too complicated, if it can't fit on one page, if you can't explain it quickly, it's not going to work for the average person who's busier and less knowledgeable about this stuff than you are. And that applies to tech, that applies to workouts, that applies to a lot. I think it was just like, I heard that quote. It's like, wow, that just solidified what I'm finding to be just critical to the way I do things now, in and out of the gym. But Miles, what's up, buddy? Happy Monday. El Fuego turned me into a human torch today. Always appreciate the fire programming and content. Glad to hear it, man. We're just, by the way, I gave you the tip on Dave's hot chicken. You dip the tender and Dave's sauce, and then you drizzle some slaw on top of that. Actually, I think I might get it this weekend. But yeah, so going back to the load, that's beyond adding more load to the system, beyond just starting to really build the upper back, the shoulders, the abs, just in the holding position, the arms. It gives you the counterbalance with which to squat taller and deeper. So we eventually go to that. And like I said, the all-time test was like, this is the all-time test. Can you do 10 goblet squats with a weight that is half your body weight every minute on the minute for at least 10 total minutes? I've done that up for 30 straight. If you can do that, I'm more impressed than almost any other thing besides a pistol squat that anyone can do with a squat, because it means you have the complete blend of strength, stamina, stability, power, because you got to be able to do those reps fast to get enough rest on every minute. That's part of why you start to have load. The load allows you to eventually do your body weight reps faster as well. So you don't need max loads, but a good contrast is really all you need to max out the benefits of this movement. I'm telling you right now, have big, strong, developed legs that can go the distance. So this is the squat rebuild. If you are not a VIP member, click join. You can cancel anytime, only $20 a month. I will literally teach you how to rebuild and master your squat from the ground up using just a box and mostly your body weight, adding a mini band, optional mini band stick, eventually towards the end of those routines, a dumbbell or a pair of dumbbells you can load for counterbalance. You won't need a lot of weight. 25 to 50 pounds total is all you really need to get the benefit of, or even like heavier medicine ball can work to get that front-loaded balance. But that's the combination of stuff we touched on today: the massage, the Shinbox, the kneeling mobilizations, the bridging, the hinging, actually squatting onto a box, mini band sticks, slant boards, eccentric and isometric tempos, low impact plyometric progressions for the jumping, the landing mechanics, and then some loaded counterbalance or goblet front loaded shapes. Just a quick review of everything we did today. Jordan says, I'm going back to Dave's on Friday. So good. Working up to that Reaper. That Reaper is no joke. Oh, no. Wait, actually, no. I was going to say, what was worse, the fire ant bite on my dick or the time I had the Reaper from Dave's and I touched my eyes? It's a different type of pain. I would say the fire ant on the dick was really rough. It just, that's a sensitive area. That's sensitive skin. That dick skin is very sensitive. That ant took out, that ant, like, I don't know what I did to that ant, but he bit me in a way that was criminal. So join us. What an amazing program. 3.0 is going to be very zesty. Look forward to that. Double X3, I'm programming, editing tomorrow. Will be a reloaded version of X3, bodyweight focus. That's going to be fun too. A couple content suggestions. I rewatched the movie Twins this weekend for the first time in a long time. It's actually on Netflix now, I think until March 31st. So be sure to jump on that. Man, that is an all-time comedy. Arnold, Danny DeVito. I'd never seen it. If you grew up in the 80s and 90s, like cable television, like that's one of those movies that was always on that you would like jump into. Like, it was a quarter halfway in, and you watch it like 100 times. I had never seen the beginning of that movie where Arnold's on an island and he rose to civilization to find his brother Danny. But what a comedy. And what was so great about that movie too, Arnold had been like, he put himself to be like an action hero and funny within an action hero setting with one-liners, but he proved to be like a true comedian in that movie. So classic, and it's family friendly. The other comedy I watched, I hadn't seen in a long time, was MacGruber with Will Forte. That is not a family friendly comedy, but I think MacGruber is one of the most criminally underrated comedies of all time. It's an action hero parody based on that SNL skit, MacGruber. It's basically like a goofy version of MacGyver. A guy like can just like kill people with rubber bands and push pins and rip throats. But man, such a funny movie. It's important to find the light and the heavy. I hope that's what these workouts give to you guys with all the stress in life, but also a good comedy can really ease tension. It's great for watching it over the course of having some pizza and stuff like that. Just stack it. Twins and MacGruber. That's part of your homework too. Some comedy for the weekend. Any final questions? Let me know now. I'll answer. Otherwise, I will move on. I got to go do my walk and then midday meal and then do some editing, scheduling later today. But I wanted to jump in on this, the squat rebuild. Even if you're not a member, by the way, shame on you, but join us. You will not regret it. But I'm going to be sharing in shorts and like some of these box squat variations. Again, whether you want to make it a full workout, work it into your warm-ups, work it into your off-day mobility work, work it into back-off sets or drop sets. The squat really is so if there's going to be the two most important movements, squat and the hang, in my opinion. And that's why I do a lot of squat hangs, because I can work both at the same time and they get self-assistance in a way to do more time under tension and stretching. I've shared it. Check out the shorts. I've shared another one, the twisting squat mobility. I shared I have a whole 28-day hangs program where we do a lot of squat hanging, split squat hanging drills as well. It's not just for your upper body, it's for your lower too, to rebuild your squat. So Jordan Robertson says MacGruber is one of the funniest movies of all time. It really is. Like, some of you are going to hate it. It's a love or hate type of film. But Ryan Phillippe is so funny. Ryan Phillippe is so fucking funny in that movie. But I love stacking Twins and MacGruber, because Twins is like a classic late 80s comedy with two people at the peak of their powers, Danny DeVito, Arnold Schwarzenegger. And then MacGruber is it's ridiculous. It's over the top. It's a parody. a little more modern. But it truly, like, no one's not going to like twins. Some of you are going to hate MacGruber, but I think you'll at least find one laugh out loud woman. Again, like the first time I saw that, I mean, like I was in pain. I would recommend taking an edible before you watch, because sometimes you need to kind of like, if you're kind of in this like serious mode, you can't accept. You got to be able to accept it, the ridiculous nature of it. Jimmy says, awesome video. Thanks for sharing your knowledge. Need to capture that on paper one day, waiting for your books. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if books are in the works. I did a couple guides, a push-up guide, but it's a long time before I can find the time to just making daily, weekly content is full time, especially without the assistance of an editor and videographers and stuff like that. So, but it is in audio form, video form, and I'll keep dripping and sharing the content. Again, like you get them as follow-along workouts. And by the way, like the best way to learn this stuff is through doing. People ask, like, can I do this? I'm 60. Can I do this? I don't know. Only one way to find out. Like, the reality is like 60 is different on different types of people. 42. There's some 42-year-olds that look like 62 or more. And there's 42-year-olds that look like Uncle Baby Biscuits. Life choices, behavior, and circumstances all dictate these types of things. They're built to be as accessible as possible for those that want to really work hard and push themselves safely, but progressively. We do push the pace. These are not easy routines. You got to do them on your own. You got to get the information through a screen without someone supervising you to do it. So I think anyone has a potential to do it, but it absolutely is not for everyone. And that's what makes it great, because if anyone can do it, it's not special. So thank you guys for tuning in. Hope you guys enjoyed just some tips and knowledge on rebuilding the squat. And again, the best way to take what we just talked about is to click the join button below this video, become a VIP member today, and do the El Fuego program. Get slice and dice for spring, summer. You will not regret it. We're base building, but we're also, you'll be leveling up throughout the plan. Love you guys. Peace. Jordan Drops, I'm gonna fill you up. The best line is, I will suck your dick. What do you want me to fuck? There was another good one too. It's time to pound some cunt. Also, by the way, like I totally forgot, Val Kilmer is the villain. I mean, I don't know. Kristen Wiig, phenomenal. Ryan Phillippe, you don't want to miss it. Twins and MacGruber, that's your comedy stack this weekend. Love you guys. Peace.